have an outreach office here in Swainsboro, and I do everything in Emmanuel County. We are a United Way agency. We're nonprofit. All of our services are free and confidential, and we serve clients that are in domestic violence and or sexual assault. We're certified through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. I think we are one of 46 or 48 shelters in Georgia, so every county in Georgia has a shelter that serves them. We serve Toombs, Montgomery, Wheeler, Truthland, and Emmanuel. Some of you may be familiar with St. David and Statesboro. We are the same entity. We work in the same system. All of our services are free, confidential. We have a 24/7 hotline. We have a staffed emergency shelter. We specialize in victim advocacy, legal advocacy, children's advocacy, and sexual assault advocacy. We do have an outreach office here in Swainsboro, as I said. Everything that we do at our shelter in Vidalia is also offered here in Swainsboro, with the exception of the actual shelter. The shelter is in the Vidalia area, but if someone from here needs shelter and they need transportation, I will transport them to shelter. I will get everything set up. I make all the arrangements for them. I primarily specialize in legal advocacy here in Swainsboro. We have a lot of protection orders that are taken out. I probably do 2 or 3 a week sometimes, so I'm no stranger in the court system. We also work closely with the school system, the hospital, law enforcement, any agency that our clients may need services with, we work with. I also should say, I saw it just as I flipped it, our location at the shelter and both here in Swainsboro are kept confidential. It's kind of a need-to-know basis, so everything is by appointment. So if you need services or you know someone who does, you really need to make the referral and let them call and let me set up an appointment with them. We don't take people just walking in. So what is domestic violence? That's kind of a subject that I guess everybody wants to know about. It is about someone having power and control over another person. It is not just physical. It is emotional. It is verbal. It is psychological. It is financial. It is any type of abuse. If someone is trying to control you, it can be in any race, culture, socioeconomic level, age. There's no discrimination with domestic violence. It can take place between parents, children, siblings. It's not just intimate partners. It's a crime in Georgia. It's probably a crime most in the United States, but definitely in Georgia it's a crime. A lot of physical acts of violence are punishable by law. Some are misdemeanors and some are actually felonies. 85% of the victims are women, but men are also victimized. I have worked with several men actually right here in Swainsboro. So some of the signs that you can look for if you think that you might be in an abusive relationship. Like I said, it's not just physical, so it's not just the bruising and the pushing and the shoving. A lot of times these abusers, they put you down, they demean you, they use a lot of verbal words. They may tell you that you can't do anything right. A lot of them are extremely jealous. They accuse the victims of cheating. That's probably one of the ones that I hear the most of. They intimidate her, they give her looks, they may try to take the children from her. And we say her, guys, I'm not just picking on y'all to insinuate that men are the only ones that are aggressive. Women can be quite aggressive too. A lot of times the victims are not permitted to work outside the home. They are kept inside, they are limited to the vehicle, to phones, to money. A lot of times they destroy property. I've had instances where I smelled gasoline when I was transporting a client, and it was because he had doused all of her belongings with gas, and so we kept smelling it in the car, and that's what it was. She managed to get them before he actually set them on fire. They may prevent you from making your own decisions. They tell you where to go, what to do. They check up on you often. You may not be able to have private passwords. They may take the passwords from your phone, your Facebook, whatever. There's no privacy. It's all about them having power and control over you. This is a diagram that we use to show that, and you guys have one that's a little different than that one. If you want to take a look at it, This just kind of puts it in perspective of the different tactics that abusers use. What I just talked about, the physical, the emotional, the sexual, all of that are tactics, the intimidation. We like to use this to give clients, it just kind of puts everything a little bit neater in perspective. We're going to watch video.
I thought I had seen it all. I want you to know this is real reality TV. Her 13-year-old son
You know, here
is filming this video that we're about to see on orders from his father. It's the nightmare here happens behind closed doors, but rarely ever seen.
Not guilty of harm at all.
In a rage, Susan Still's husband emotionally and verbally attacks her in front of their children. With her oldest son, 13, on the other side of the lens, and her 8-year-old son also in the room, Susan's husband calls her stupid 23 times, heifer 28 times, among other dehumanizing names.
So,
I don't want to act stupid. I don't, and I'm sorry.
The abuse then turns from words and threats to fists and an explosion of violence. It's still hard for me to watch after all this time. And I cannot watch that video without thinking what's going to happen to those two boys. I just wonder if there's enough therapy in the world for those two boys. When you not only have witnessed that happen to your mother on a almost daily basis and sometimes several times a day, but you were the person who filmed it, who was forced to partake in it. So that's what I was thinking then, and that's what I continue to think about. I just, for every woman who's ever thought that I'm staying because I want to make it okay for my children, the damage to your children, emotionally and spiritually, even though your children may never get hit, the damage to them doesn't even begin to compare to whatever your emotional or physical damage is. Because you just can't undo it. It cannot be undone.
Susan Still is now a very strong advocate for domestic violence. She actually spoke at our conference, not this past year, but the year before, and we got to meet her, and she's just the sweetest lady. Her abuser, her husband, is actually eligible for parole in 2021, so we're hoping that he does not get paroled out. So how does it affect children? I recognize some faces in here, so I know a lot of you guys have children. I know some of you work with children. Domestic violence is a learned behavior. These children learn this from inside the home. They are prone to depression, anxiety, fear. They have problems in school with low grades. Sometimes they're tired in school because they hear what goes on inside the home. I think parents think that they do a really good job of protecting the children, but in almost all cases, the children know what's going on and they see it, they hear it. A lot of these children have social problems, they have medical problems, they have trouble making friends, they may isolate themselves. Some of them have a tendency to bully others or to be bullied. So one thing I always tell my children when they have a child in their class maybe that's being difficult is that there's something going on at home. I mean, when children go into the classroom and they're bringing these bad behaviors in there, there's a reason for it. Children don't just grow up with bad behavior. They're seeing or they're hearing something. They're more likely to be abusers when they grow up or to be abused. What our judges will tell ladies when we go in is that if you allow someone to treat you in this way, what you're really doing is teaching your children that it's okay. You're teaching your girls that this is the way women get treated, and you're teaching your boys that this is how we disrespect women. So it is learned. And they're more likely to be involved in criminal activity or to be violent. We talked about the warning signs. Of course, physical signs are a lot easier to identify than the verbal or the emotional. But one thing that you can always look for is a person who seems anxious or afraid to please their partner. If they're checking their cell phone constantly, if they have to check in to let them know where they are, what they're doing, they may isolate themselves from family and friends. Those are pretty good indications that something is going on. The physical violence, again, you can see a lot of times they have excuses of accidents. They may try to hide their bruises by wearing long sleeves or scarves or sunglasses or things that are just, inappropriate for the weather. They may miss work, school, or social occasions. And this is one thing that we like to talk to employers about, because a lot of these women, they do miss a lot of work. And employers aren't necessarily understanding of that sometimes. So we try to, get that out there. If you have someone in your job that's missing a lot of work, or she's checking her phone often, or she's taking a lot of bathroom breaks, that's a pretty good indication that there's probably something going on. Again, they may isolate themselves from family and friends. They may rarely go out in public without their abuser. They may have limited access to money, credit cards, the car. I had a lady one time that was locked inside the house from the outside during the day, so she couldn't get out. A lot of these women have very low self-esteem. They are convinced that they cannot function without their abuser. The abuser has complete power and control over them. So this is another video from Susan Still.
As a victim, part of that control is that you get to a point where your abuser totally does something to totally overpower you. And they also make you believe that it's your fault. They brainwash to believe that we are the problem. The thing is that they don't come into the relationship like that. They come into the relationship as this really great person. And so we as victims remember the good times. We remember that those times existed. So if we just fix ourselves, it'll go back to.
So it's a little bit different, huh? And that's that was her youngest son there. He was the one that was 8 at the time of the video. So what can you do to help if you think someone is in an abusive relationship, or possibly if they are? One thing that you want to do is you want to express your concern. You want to let her know that you've noticed some of these things. You don't want to be pushy. You don't want to try to convince her to go to counseling or to try to get couples counseling because it doesn't work. Usually once the abuse has started, it always gets worse. So encouraging them to go to couples counseling usually makes it worse. You also don't want to try to make them leave. You don't want to encourage them to do something that they are not ready to do. A lot of times families are extremely frustrated because they want what they want for their family member or their loved one because they feel that that's in their best interest. But in reality, what the family's doing is they're making the situation worse. Because what happens, the ladies will start to isolate themselves even more. They will stop talking to you altogether. If the abuser finds out that you're trying to push her to leave or to get help, it usually makes him very angry. And then she gets even more whenever she gets home. Where did Mitchell go? Because this thing just completely cut off on me. We'll just have to get through without it, I guess. So if you know someone that is in this type of situation, just talk to her and try to encourage her to get help on her own terms. Don't ever try to force her to do it on her own or without someone that can help. I really don't know exactly where I was at in this presentation. I apologize. I guess at this point I can just open it up to questions and answers. I covered pretty much everything that there is to cover. I do have a little bit on teen dating violence, and I have some papers up here if you guys want to pick them up. Because our teenage girls, from the ages of 18 to 24, are usually the ones that are the most likely to be involved in these types of relationships. It completely cut off on us, so we'll just wing it. Their relationships are very similar to adult relationships at this point. They, with the exception, did I kick it off?
then what's
With the exception that they lack the experience that adults have. So a lot of times they think that this guy really loves her, you know, he's putting a lot of time and effort into her, he cares about where she's going, he cares about what she's wearing, who she's with or what she's doing, he's blowing her phone up constantly with text messages. That's not love, that's a warning sign. So if you as a teenager, I see some young faces in here, if you guys are experiencing that, or if parents, if you're seeing this with your young children, and girls are really bad about it too, it's not just boys that are doing this, girls are really controlling too, you know, that's a pretty good indication that they're not in a very healthy relationship. So you might want to talk to them about it. The refuge can help, that's what we're here for. We can take the calls, we can answer questions. Like I said, I do a lot of legal advocacy here, we do a lot of protection orders. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to talk with you about that afterwards. Like I was just saying, with emergency shelter, we're staffed 24/7. If you know someone that needs shelter, they can give us a call. We can make the arrangements, get them over there if they have their own transportation. We have everything they need when they get there. So if they come with just the clothes on their back, that's fine. We have their clothes, their food, their personal hygiene products, you know, anything that they need to survive, we have there. I've already kind of said this, our advocacy and outreach services, we work with all local law enforcement agencies, DFACs, hospitals, doctors, drug and alcohol rehab. If someone is drug or alcohol addicted, they do have to detox for 72 hours before they can go into shelter. We are able to help them obtain documents, driver's license, IDs, birth certificates, social security cards. Those are all items that are really, really hard to get if you lose them. We're able to assist with employment. Now, by that, I don't mean we go out and find them a job. They have to do it on their own, but we do help provide referrals. We can help with resumes, job applications, that type of thing, if they need that kind of help. Legal advocacy, sexual assault advocacy. That's important to note that we do not have sexual assault counselors on staff. What we are able to do if someone has been raped or sexually assaulted, we can accompany them to the hospital. We can accompany them through that very uncomfortable exam that they have to go through. We're able to stay with them through the law enforcement exam. Well, the questions that they get, it's very invasive. It is extremely invasive, and I have had to do it. And it's very lengthy, and it's very uncomfortable. And so it's really good for these victims to have someone there that can advocate for them, because their minds are not clear, they're not thinking, and they don't know the questions to ask. And a lot of times they really don't even fully understand what it is that they're going through. We have a child advocate at the shelter, and what she does is she works primarily with the mothers and the children. She can provide tutoring for children who may need tutoring. She's able to work with the mothers on parenting classes. She works with the school system, because if you have someone, say, from here in Swainsboro that needs to go to shelter, well, now the children have to change schools. So she's able to work with them on that level to get them from one school to the next very smoothly without, you know, too many problems. Getting records transferred, that kind of thing can sometimes take a while. We talked about teen dating abuse, and again, it's just a pattern of behavior that someone uses to have power control over a boyfriend or girlfriend. The signs of an unhealthy teen relationship are similar to adults. They check their cell phone without permission. They may not allow them to have access to their social media. They're very possessive. They're jealous. They care about what she's wearing a little bit too much, or where she's going, or who she's with. She may feel like she has to check in with her boyfriend very often. In our world of technology, obviously, we see a lot of the digital and cyber abuse. And this one is one that is very easily under the radar, because kids can be sitting next to you and being harassed by someone, and you won't even know it, because it's, you know, they're texting back and forth, or they may be on social media. They may tell them who they can and can't be friends with on social media. They constantly text, call, They may threaten to put your personal information out there, or they may actually put it out there if they're angry with you. One of the things that we tell kids especially is that if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't. So you want to just kind of be mindful of that. Sexting is very popular and common these days with youth. It is happening more and more. I'm going to show you a quick video on that, and this was in 2009, the video, and the numbers have already increased. I think in the video it says it's 1 in 6 to 7, and it's about 1 in 4 to 5 now, the kids that are sexting pictures and explicit messages. It is a crime. These people can be charged with child pornography. They don't know that, but that's important to get that out to our kids, that if they're sending and receiving these types of photos, they can go to jail. So we'll watch this video really quick.
We live in an instant. From food to movies to the speed of download, the demand for instant results is trickling into every corner of our lives. Retailers race into same-day delivery, and smartphone apps are now designed to eliminate the wait for a cab, a date, or a table at the hottest restaurants. It's a world of instant information at our fingertips. But as a certain web-slinging superhero once taught us, with great power comes great responsibility. And for adolescents, that quest for power often comes in the form of sex. We hit the hallways to ask a few of your peers if they have ever used this time-saving tool to send or say anything inappropriate.
I think you just text in the moment. You don't really text, you don't really think about it.
If you're in a fight with somebody or you get really heated, you send texts that you really don't mean, and so I've done that a couple times.
I try to think about what I text before I actually send it out. Sexting is the term used to describe the exchange of nude images or a sexually suggestive text message on cell phones. A 2009 report states that nearly 1 out of every 6 to 7 teenagers with cell phones have sent or received nude photos through a text service.
Well, in some cases, or not most, especially in the school setting, it's possession of child pornography, which is a felony. This possession of having that material, especially if that picture is of a young man or a young lady who's not an adult. Even if you're 18 and you're sharing photos, where's that photo ending up? Next thing you know, everybody's got a picture of you.
With all the legal ramifications, why are teens continuing to sext? According to the research, when asked, 40% of teenage girls report that they do it as a joke, and 34% do it to feel liked or sexy. And at least 61% of both genders who sext admit they were pressured to do it at least once. More alarming, 15% admit sending these messages to people they have never met in person or just chatted with online. Earlier generations didn't live with the instant connectivity that we have today. Apps like Snapchat and Instagram weren't available at the touch of a button. Often your weekends were limited to 24 photos at a time, and they took over a week to develop, long after the mood had passed. And even after these photos were taken, they were much easier to dispose of.
The first thing that kids need to understand is that what is put out there doesn't go away. It's permanent. Even if you think you're, for instance, using Snapchat and they're going to see it and it's going to disappear, I'm Snap saved. There's no guarantee that it's going to be an instantaneous view and then it's just going to disappear into Never Land. It can always be retrieved. If you put it out there, you are relinquishing privacy.
While technology will continue to advance and it becomes more and more difficult to find solace in an instant world on display, adolescents need to be aware of the potential dangers of sexting. Before hitting send, remember that no one can control where that image may travel. And to always ask yourself, is the gratification really worth the risk before everything changes in an instant? For Eagle Nation News, I'm Ben Fine.
I really hate Snapchat. I really do, and I know the kids love it. They think that everything goes away within, 15 seconds or whatever. But what about screenshots? I mean, I really don't like that program at all. So why don't kids speak up? Well, a lot of times it's the lack of relationship experience, and I said that a while ago. Adults actually have some experience. We kind of know what we're getting into. With these younger girls, they don't know what they're getting into. They think that these boys really love them, that they care. They believe it's normal. They don't necessarily understand that they are a victim or why they're being treated this way. They may be embarrassed because a lot of times he was just so perfect and now he's not, so they don't want to admit that to anybody. Kids especially are very afraid of losing privileges. They're afraid mom and dad's going to be upset with them. They're going to lose their phone. They may not be able to go out Saturday night. And all of those things are probably true, but those are really good reasons why they don't speak up. And telling if a teenager is in an abusive relationship is not that different from telling if an adult is. They're going to be more withdrawn. They may not hang out with their friends and family like they used to. They may be nervous around him. She may have a lot of excuses for, why he's treating her the way he is. She makes excuses for him. She tries to undermine the behavior. So those are all pretty good indicators that something's going on with your friend. And again, just talk to her, let her know that you've noticed that there's, something different, something's going on. Explain to her that she can talk to adults that she can trust, maybe a counselor at school, or she could give us a call at the refuge. We do have to have a parent present if we are working with someone under the age of 18, but we can still answer questions over the phone and get her, maybe to someone who can help if she's not willing to bring a parent in with her. Don't gossip, and this is important with adults as well. If someone is confiding in you about what's going on, don't tell anyone else because she's trusting you. This is a very difficult subject for people to talk about. So if they come to you and they're telling you what's going on, just don't pass it along. If she does leave the relationship, don't tell her whereabouts. Don't tell anyone where she is. With teenagers, we encourage them to break up in a safe space in public with friends around. They never want to do it privately. That can get them killed, and that sounds kind of harsh, but it's true. We really have to encourage them to do this on their own terms, but do it the right way. Again, we can answer questions. The restraining orders, the protection orders, they do enforce the no contact. Again, if she is under the age of 18, she has to have someone over the age of 18 to sign that protection order for her. It does not have to be a parent with a protection order. It can be anyone over the age of 18 can go and sign that petition on her behalf. She does still have to be present. She does still have to want the order. You can't just go take one for your friend because you're concerned for her, but you can do it on her behalf. At this time, if you guys have any questions, I know some of you need to scoot, and we've had a lot of technical problems. I'm here. I'll be glad to stay and talk with you afterwards, or if you want to, raise your hand and ask questions now, feel free. Otherwise, thank y'all.